Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here once again. I say evening because I never know if it's going to be morning, evening, whenever anybody clicks this on. So actually, it will be morning for me, but it could be evening for you. Thanks for tuning in as always. I appreciate it. We're going to get to chapter 12 and 13. However, on Wednesday, the format will change slightly in the way I'm doing these because I'd like to get more chapters done per video. So um, if I did it the way I'm doing it now, I'd be making like 400 videos. But so I'm going to try to streamline it and condense it still giving you the exact numbers and percentages at the same time. So what I'll probably be getting rid of, as much as I like seeing all the words and the differences, which I will have a summary of that after each book. So after Matthew, I'll do a summary of it. After Mark, Luke, so on and so forth. So, but hey, let's try to condense this as much as possible. We can get more done. So, with that, let's get right into it as fast as possible here, so we don't waste too much of your time. Let's take this off. This, there we go, and zoom in. Bam! All right, and nice and bright. All right, chapter 12, and I've been a little bit helpful. If it's not, hey, I apologize. Leaving the comments if it's helpful or not helpful. It's okay with me. I don't mind being criticized with constructive criticism. It's fine. You can just criticize me. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But I go through these on purpose because I want people to realize that, yeah, there are changes from the 2025, I say 2025, the modern King James Bible, today's King James Bible, and the 1611, like spelling. But a lot of the doctrinal errors that they say exist are not as prevalent as they want you to believe. So they'll tell you when you look at general things on AI or anything like that, they're going to tell you there's 38,000 errors or changes, but there's not 38,000 changes. But they're what they were proper for that timeline. Like we talked about Jesus, that I that we think of as an I was a J. Then there was no error. So in chapter 12 is 50 verses, 1,140 words, 187 spelling errors. I love. Do we keep doing the quotations? 30 capitalization changes, or a total of 218 changes. No, the math's not wrong. I know what it says here. If you did the math here, it comes 217, but you'll see that one change later. So in 1611, as we go through it, you have the changes we were just talking about, Jesus to Jesus, or Iesus, which is just Jesus, if you know the letter J. So 3 times it's changed there. So what do we do here? If you've only clicked on this video and not the others, what I do is show you the fact that what scholars will do, if they find Jesus is spelled 3 times, they say there's 3 errors or there's 3 changes. But really, there's not 3 errors or 3 changes. It's still the same word. It's not even spelled differently. It's spelled properly here, and it's spelled properly here for the time frame. Thorough, which is through, corn, the and symbol to and. We see a lot of these began. How about Pharisees? Maybe you would have you might have said Pharisees. I don't know why you would, but you might. But in that time frame, you wouldn't. You knew what it said. It's not a mistake or an error. One of my favorites, unto, the V and the U situation. We know all about that. But look at 15 times. So again, scholars, there are many scholars who will look at this and textual critic people and people who are looking for mistakes will literally tell you there's 15 times. If they only found unto, they would say 15 changes. But you and I both know there's not 15 changes. That's not 15. It's one letter. It's one letter. I mean, it's one word, one letter change, one word. It just has to be that one word appeared 15 times. So we go through do, low, lawful, upon, have. A lot of this is phonetics, as we talked about before. Again, don't be fooled by what they tell you, because we're going to get into the other Bibles and see some actual doctrinal errors, actual omissions, and so forth. Well, it's never in the, we get on all that. It wasn't in that one or that one. Well, there are P52s and so forth and so on. You just look at Stephanus, Beza, Scribner, Masoretics, even Wessex Gospels, too. You can look at that. Dumb, you get the E at the end of that. Break, flax. A lot of these are simple words, real simple. You go through all of them. And it doesn't take a lot to go through these in these videos, but I'm usually able to get 2 in one. So, but I want to be able to get 3 in one minimum for now at 3 in 1. That was not intended to say that. 3 in 1 video. So, if not more, we will be able to do that by breaking down these and just giving the percentage numbers. And there's that famous the account, which means account. So I put a C here for change. When I have a CP, it just means compound. This is the big change. Now, if you look up the history of the word, you know that this word means the exact same thing. My theory, I've never looked into it. My theory is the fact that someone was still using this spelling when they went to print it. For some reason, this word, which is that word. So account, I wish I had that little arrow. Well, maybe I do have an arrow. Oh, the arrow shows up here, but not here. Okay. So this word is that word. They're the same word, same thing, just different spellings, but look up the history of that. I think I hear my dog barking out in the front yard somewhere. I don't know. I don't know why it's barking like crazy. Don't know where the kids are. They should be take care of that. Judgment, words, a lot of same thing. Jonas, Nineveh, Queen. It's got that extra E at the end. You see that a lot, these extra E's. Empty, himself, 7, said, have. A lot of these, like, same thing. It's the same thing. Now you get into the capitals, right? We talked about this before. What was it, 30 capitals? Capitalization changes. Let's go back up here as we scroll all the way up. Yeah, 30 capital changes. That's what I put down as how many capitals, how scholars would look at it. So, but if you get down to the nitty gritty here, let's roll down. All right, get down to capital letters. Sabbath appears, 8 times that's been changed. So it's capital to small. Simple stuff. Nothing that affects anything. No, it's not like they had the wrong word or anything like that. It's just station changes. That's all it was. Now the fun part. This is the great part. This is always my fun part of this, breaking this down into percentages and changes. So scholars would say 1,140 words. So would we. 218 errors. We wouldn't say that, but 218 errors, 19.1%. And again, what would they do? They would use verbiage. Over 19%. They would just say over 19%. It's a vague word. So one would think, well, it's got to be somewhere between 19 and 20. And some would say, well, I don't know how high it is. It just says over 19. 19.1%, they would say, is error. There's all these changes, under 20% of it. They even say that too. Over here, if you look at it, it's really 83 errors, 7.2%. And again, I put the quotation marks on errors because we know they're not errors. First step in this process is the letter J. Now you take out the letter J, you take out 4. You had 83 the errors because we don't count scholars. Scholars like to pump up numbers that aren't there. 83, you minus 4, you get 79. You break that 79 down, that brings you to 6.9%. Now the second step in the process, we look at capitalizations. You take 79 now, that right here, you drop that 79 down here, and you minus 16. It's 16 capitalization. And you say, well, I thought there was 30. We count them as 16. So 16 capitals, it brings it to 63. That gives you 5.5%. Now you have 5.5% of the, now let's look up here. What was it? 19.1 if you're a scholar. They don't tell you all about any of this. They avoid all that. 19.1% because they don't watch in the King James, obviously. 6.9, 5.5. Now the third step. This is a big one, I think. You get the phonetics, and which just means you just say it how it looks. Meekness, blameless, things like that. You know how to say it. Well, you take that into account. You got 48 words that way. You have 48 times that happens. That brings us to 15 remaining. That brings you down to 1.3. Now, if I didn't even go to the V or the U situation or anything else, if I just went or didn't look at any changes at all, that's already 1.3. So 1.3% is really changed. Well, I went way too far up here. Sorry. From 19.1 on their behalf but 7.2% reality. You've now dropped it down to 1.3. Now, the last step we look at is the V's and the U's. I might not even put those in my future videos because I'll even let them have V's and U's. You still have a low percentage. You take out the 10 times, you have 5 left, you have 0.004% change. So what does that give us? A summary of 99.5% readable. It's a level, it's a 99.5%, I can talk, 99.5% readability issue. Or readability, I should say, not an issue. You can read it. 99.5%. If you know these errors, well, they don't know error. How would you explain that? Oh boy. But that you can read this. So I might take out the V's and U's and still prove the point. Capitalization is not an issue when they talk about change. J's are not an issue when you think about that. Man. I did not do my sons on this one. I'll bring them in every now and then. But I think if you watch my earlier videos, you get the point that if they're continually over 80% and over 90%, the 10-year-old, like I said, is over 80% readability, and the 13-year-old is over 90% readability. So, all right. Now let's hop into Matthew chapter 13. By the way, a lot of words, 1,140 words. Now we go to Matthew chapter 13. We have 58 verses. We have 1,357 words. I know this because I counted them. I did not look for a tally on the computer. I literally go through every verse and count. It's a lot of time involved. I don't mind doing it. I enjoy doing this, but it is time consuming. 1,357 words, 230 spelling changes or errors, 17 capitalization issues, for a total of 254 changes. I know. Look at that. Stephen, look, 47. What happened? All right. Again, same thing. We have Isis and Jesus 6 times. Here's my favorite, right? There it is, the unto. Unto, the V to the U, 26 times. 26 times it's been changed. But again, it's really one word 26 times. It's not 26 errors, 26 separate mistakes. Yes, on the surface it is. But when we're talking about how scholars and how these guys like to sell their modern Bibles, they really point to that. They will count that way. They will count them all like that. Because the bigger the number looks, the better it is for them, the better it is to sell their product. All right, we got sat. I want sat, sate. State is what I was going to say. Sate, they don't say that. Nobody's going to say that. And you have to understand the E's at the end. All right, fourth, 10 times. Look at he. Look at that extra E. I don't know anybody who's going to go he. Maybe somebody will, but I'm doubting it. And if it happens, it's rarity. And again, some of these, 1 second to explain something, I'll just so you know, Jesus was actually J. No. Oh, really? Yeah. J didn't exist all the way. So the I was actually meant to be a J, but back then they didn't have the J. Oh, okay. Boom, done. We're done. We moved on. Isn't that something? Unto. Yeah, back then the V and the U were different. If you look at an old coin, you see a V instead of a U, the Latin V. And they did things like that back then, but before the alphabet really got full swing into England. And now that's why you have the V instead of the U. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, so anytime you see V, it's actually U. Oh, okay. Cool. Again, not hard. Devoured, up, upon, with the V's. Now, you got this. I was talking about this earlier. I don't know why I didn't highlight the other one, the other change. CP for compound. See, they have it separated and they have it together. So we can see in the 1611, they actually separated these 2 words, 60-fold and 30-fold. But as we go forward, they are actually a compound. They've just put together, separate words. Now they're together, 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. Not that difficult, even though if you look at 60, it's got a spelling error. Not that difficult to understand, so they change it. Now today, it's different. Now they separate those 2 words. I mean, I should say they don't separate 2 words. Not hard to understand. But again, that's 3 errors. Not then it wasn't. All right, we got ears 5 times. Here, let's go 11 times. That happens like that. You go through these. Kingdom 11, heaven 8 times. You can go through a lot of these. Prophecy to prophecy, like prophecy. It's a phonetic. Prophecy. Ye. It's phonetic. Ye. Understand it. Cometh. Seen. Got an extra E there. And this isn't really to convince those who are already King James Bible believers. You get the right Bible, but I think sometimes when people come attack you, I want to be able to give something that you may not know or may not have. I don't mean that in a negative sense. Any information that kind of helps us. I don't mean studying all of Greek and all of Hebrew. I'm not saying you can't, but if you're studying Hebrew and Greek to have faith in the King James Bible, I don't know. I got a little problem with that. If you would have faith in King James Bible. When I read the King James Bible, I knew I had the right Bible. You just know, you just know. I guess it's always hard to explain to people. You just know. All right, so you got himself here down here with an E. You got the hundredfold again over here. See how it breaks that down. That's a compound change. So you keep going through this. You got bind, you got all the stuff. Grain is another. Where is it? Burn and burnt. Where was going? Grain. So you got the E at the end. You got took again. You got the E at the end, and that's just grown. Even though the E is not at the end, the E is right before the end. You would still pronounce that grown. You wouldn't be growing. No one would think it's a word. If I'm looking at that phonetically, I went, looks like grown to me because it is grown. Herbs, same thing. Air, it's not airy. Meal, again, a lot of this is really simple. There's a majority of these words you'll find over time, especially when you look at the numbers when we do the summary at the end of each book, you'll see the high percentage of phonetics. It's just it's the right word, just spelt slightly different, but it sounds exactly like the word you need to worry about. I hope somebody takes care of that dog. I don't know why the dog is running around out there barking like crazy. Probably something in the woods. You know how dogs are. Wisdom, and she's fine because we live next to a cornfield and a forest. So I don't think she's going to have much of an issue. Save. All right, now we get these parts. The changes. Let's talk about the changes. 1611 to 2025. We look at the word he. So the word he is not in, as you can read along with me if you want. The word he is not in the 2025, but it was in the 1611. But King James added something that wasn't there. Well, the word he was also not in the Geneva or Tyndale. So this is, in my opinion, it could have been an error. So it could have been an error on the backside of it. So I will go ahead and count this as an error. That gives you one error, and he. So I wouldn't get upset about that. Then you got then to them. Then was in the 1611, but not in Geneva or Tyndale. Them, however, I'm sorry, I don't know why I put Geneva here. However, is in Geneva, Tyndale, and the King James of 2025. So I think we can obviously see here was a printing error. And an M, I think it was just a printing error. That's what I think. Burnt and burned. I was just talking about this on my live stream. This at first glance may seem like a change or an error, but the word in Greek, I don't normally do this. I don't go talking about Greek all the time. It's not a big thing of mine. I like learning a little bit of Greek, but not to understand the Bible. I know one would say, why would you not want to understand the Bible? I just want to learn a little bit of Greek. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to learn a different language. I know a little bit of Spanish, very little, a little bit of French, a little bit of Greek, tiny bit of sign language. I just enjoy sometimes learning something I don't know. I think it's fun. But what I've learned here was burnt and burned. As you can see, it has the same contextual basis, but and again, like I said, it may seem like it was change or an error, but the word in Greek means the same. It's I think it's Campanos, Campanos, something like that. Kempainos. I think it's spelled Campanos. It means the exact same thing. So if you translate this, let's say you put it into a translator app, or there's a lot of them out there. What do they got? Babbel, or Google Translate. I think there's a lot of them, I think, out there. I think there's more than one. But anyways, if you put it in there, if you put in burnt, it's going to translate to Campanos. If you put burned in there, it's going to translate into Campanos. Literally the same thing. So, which is like I wrote here. So even more reason you have the perfect word of God in the King James Bible. You don't need Greek, even though you can look at the word Greek. You don't need Greek because the King James translators already got you covered. That's how I look at it. They've already got your back, so you don't have to worry too much about that. All right, now we get down to capital letters, capitalization. You can see son to son, prophets to prophet, prophet down to prophet, son up to son, the, and capital angels down to lowercase. You see that. Synagogue, same thing, capitalized down to lowercase. Carpenters, is, whence. Pretty simple stuff there. Ready? Here we go. And my favorite part. 1,000 scholars and people in reality will agree there's 1,357 words. Now, scholars say 254 errors. Us simple folk that don't have a degree on the line or money backing us, we count it properly, 97 errors, which means nearly 19% of chapter 13 has errors, or 18.7%. But in reality, 7.1. First step, the letter J. Now, we talked about this. Letter J wasn't in full swing and full use at that time frame. Was invented in Italy by, I still have not looked up the man's name. I cannot remember it. You take that 97, you take out the 6, you get 91. That brings you down to what? 6.7%. You've moved not only from 7.1 in reality down to 6.7, you've really dropped down from scholars, so-called scholars. What should we say? We should come up with a name of some of these scholars. Money scholars, dollar sign scholars. Put a dollar sign next to them from now on. 6.7%. And there's some actually good scholars out there who have nothing to do with money. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're not trying to move you on to a particular. They're just good scholars that they look at things for what it actually is, not for what they want it to be. Second step is capitalization. We have 91 from previous. We bring it down, take out 13, you're down 78. You have 5.7% now. Now you've gone down to 5.7% of error in there. And the big one, third step, phonetics. We got 61. Remember I was telling you before, a majority of the issues or the errors, I'm not talking about like phrases. I'm talking about words, capitalization, all the simple things. I'm not even talking about parentheses. I don't really even care about the parentheses or italics. I mean, I would agree with some folks that perhaps we need that many italics. I don't know, but they're not changing anything doctrinally, I believe. All right. Third step, phonetic, 78. You take out 61 of those. 61 times it's a phonetic spell, and 70 left. 3.4%. We've now gone down from, well, scholars, really, we dropped down from 18 to 3. But reality, 7 down to 3. Final step, the V's and the U's. We take out 3 more of those. You got 3 left that are, I think, obvious words, but I left them in there as generosity, as in maybe you won't be able to pronounce it. Maybe. That leaves 3. That's 0.002%. And that leaves us what? A readability level of 99.7%. So you will pass. You will be able to read. And I might even take down the road the V's and the U's out, if that upsets people. But even at that point, you'd have to bring yourself down to 3.4%, right? If you took out the V's and the U's. And we know that's not complicated, 3.4%, but there's no issues. There's no problems. 99.7. So you can successfully read the King James Bible without an issue. That's pretty good to know, isn't it? You can read the King James. You can read the 1611 without too much issue. People are always saying, well, no one reads the 1611 today. Well, I think some people do. I read it once in a while. I'll read it. But I could read it all the way through. It's not a complicated issue. I don't read mine because I'm blind as can be. My reading prescriptions here are getting a little bit bigger because I'm getting a little bit blinder. So maybe if I can buy one day a large print, I'd have to get a real large print, giant 1611 so I can read it with my eyes. All right, that ends this. That's it. We're all done. This is. I hope this helps you in some way to make you realize that you don't have to worry about this nonsense of there's all these changes. From what changes? What changes is so bad that it's affecting the readability issue of this Bible? You can read it. 99% readability issue. Instead of 0.7, I'll take it out. I'll lower it all the way down to 99%. There you go. All right. With that, I appreciate your time. I really do. I'm grateful and thankful every time you come here and watch these videos. I got to keep, I usually say that most of the time. Once in a while, I do forget, but I am grateful. I am thankful that you do take your time to watch. You won't be doing anything right now. You can watch anybody. There's 1 billion people on YouTube doing channels. So I am grateful for your time. That's a half an hour. You could have been somewhere else, and I'm thankful for it. Thank you very much. With that, I am going to, as always, awkwardly shut the button off because I can never streamline this perfectly. With that, God bless and have a beautiful day.